Alright, let's go get this extra dead preventing flower. I think that's all the plant stuff I wanted to talk about. There's a bunch of updates with the truck recently. Greek mythology, I don't know enough about Greek mythology to answer. I'll just have to do some research into Greek mythology to see what the whole rules in the afterlife are, or something. The truck has been a little bit of a whirlwind lately. So I don't know if I streamed since the most recent show that I took it to, but I took it to one last show of the year and parked right next to a guy that was like, he had a Jeep that was completely themed around Jurassic Park, and he had like a bunch of Jurassic Park like dinosaur animatronic thingamabobs. Like, he had like a little baby blue that he could control on his arm. And he had like a little toy triceratops for kids to like hop on and take pictures with, and like, he was probably the person getting the most attention at the show just because like kids and families were really getting a kick out of that. And he was a really nice guy as well. It was fun chatting with him. But I had like a bit of a death lurch on the way there. So like, as I'd be driving down the road, all of a sudden my truck would start going vroom, vroom, vroom until it starts puttering and dying. And it would just randomly die on me in the middle of the road. And I would always be able to, like, start it again immediately and then keep on going down. Sometimes I would need to come to a complete stop. Sometimes I'd come to a complete stop, put it into first gear, and then be able to drive again before it even starts stalling and dying. Or, like, before it fully dies, I should say. Other times it would fully die, and then I have to start it up again and then start from a stop. I'm really glad that traffic was never super insane, so I wasn't exactly holding anybody up. So, yeah, it really wasn't a great situation there, honestly. And I was a little bit worried. I thought maybe it was like I was low on oil because I got there and my oil seemed a little low. Found out from my dad later that apparently just the fact that as you're driving it and it sucks up oil, it's going to report it being a little bit lower than it actually is. I still requested my mom to bring me some oil, like she did at the exact same show last year. I topped it up. But yeah, that definitely did not change the death lurch.
It's nice to see you in one piece.
Yes, I like it.
Was this the guy that like got mauled by a shark?
What are you doing here?
That we were bringing to the Olympics.
Sounded so pretty. Wanted pretty flower oil. Have you seen it?
I have the flower.
I have the asphodel flower. I needed to save someone who's sick.
But I need the flower, Mistios. I came all this way to get it. And I will.
Is he gonna get mauled a second time? So he got mauled by sharks in the story of the main game. The one. I just got a Steam achievement. Defeat all of the Fallen? Wait. New Fallen discovered he was a guy to defeat. I got a Steam achievement with it just because he was killed in a cutscene. I didn't even do that. Oh, man. Whoa, okay, they're not gonna let me get away with that. So he got mauled by sharks in the real world. Like, so, for context, for the story here, there was a part in the story where we needed to win the Olympics, and we needed to get this guy, the champion, and bring him to the Olympics, and he was going to go win the Olympics for the guys that we needed to win the Olympics for. And, immediately on arriving at the shore, like on the pier of the place that we brought him to, and he gets off our ship, he sees some character, I forget if it was us or some other character. He's like, oh, I just want to give you a hug. And he goes over and tries to hug them. The person dodges out of the way and he falls into the water and gets immediately mauled by sharks. And then that's the story reason why we need to go into the Olympics ourselves. And now here he is in the afterlife, immediately trying to do something relating to grabbing you again and then immediately getting mauled. Again. Testicles' nutcracker? Did I just get as a weapon? Wait. Because it's already funny to make fun of his name. I got Testicles' nutcracker. Testicles was so jealous of his brother, Testiclos, that he had an exact replica of his hammer forged just for him. The devs knew what they were doing when they named this weapon, huh? But yeah. Promise I didn't kill him, officer, just happened to be there when he was mauled. Yeah, it seemed like there'd be a lot more awkwardness about that in, like, the overworld. To explain, like, yeah, he just so happened to get mauled by a shark. Yep. That was, I didn't think I'd be seeing him again. So, these buttons let me throw bodies? Yep. Here, now it's just like before. Okay. To the plague victim. What the hell was I talking about with my truck now? That was kind of funny. Hold on, let's just see here. Southwestern part of the Scourged lands, east of Hades' palace. So southwest. Southwest of the Scorched lands. This is Scorched lands. So I mean, oh wait, southwest. I'm looking southeast. I'm dumb. Hades' palace. Yeah, in a building east of Hades' palace. So just go here and kind of go east a little bit is what I guess I'll do. Okay, so my dad ended up coming to that show, and he ended up basically escorting me home, like driving behind me, having hazard lights on, in case I got like the Death Lurch stall again. And it did happen once. Like, it was better than before, being like, I think it was 3 times on the way to that show. It was twice or 3 times. I think it was 3 times on the way to the show that that I had it stall and die. And more times that it like Death Lurched without actually fully stalling. It was very sketchy. It stalled and died on me once. I think it had the Death Lurch more than that on the way home, but the only time that it like stalled on me and died was once. Was the case that time. Keep on going this way. So it was a little bit concerning, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. It sounded like a fuel issue. It sounded like the engine wasn't getting enough gas. So I wonder if it was the carburetor, the thing that I've been fighting non-stop for a year now. Because it was, what, September last year that it first became a problem? So I guess up until now, October, you could say 13 months. It's an issue that I've been dealing with that I thought I had solved. But yeah, I thought I fixed it as well. But I never adjusted it. Because I found out later that apparently there's like screws that you need to adjust on the inside that are like fuel jets that will augment like how much fuel it gets at different points. And I never adjusted those jets. I just had it be like the way that it came, which I assumed was fine, which maybe it wasn't. So I guess I didn't need to jump down here. So it sounded like there was something weird with that. And I also have had like weird issues with the clutch for a while, where I need to push it all the way to the floor to engage it. And then when I do, sometimes it gets squeaky. It goes... So there was issues with that. I was like, okay, with all these things, I should just like take it into service. I mean, with the clutch and stuff there, I already knew that I was going to take it into service, and I had booked that like a month ago to be at the end of last month. So then Death Lurch coming up is like, all right, well, that's one more thing to bring to the notice of the shop when I bring it in. But yeah. Was it quite a problem that was going to be? Yeah, that would be the clutch there, is what that is, because it was just a little bit funny. So I was already going to take it into the shop for that to try and get it sorted out, and then this Death Lurch was just another thing that cropped up where it's like, okay, well, it's a good thing I took it to this show and found out that that's an issue. Now I know that I should bring this up to the shop as well, and maybe that's something that they can sort out. Maybe it's something with the carburetor, maybe it's something else. So at the beginning of this week, I brought my truck into the shop.
I'm very sick. I've been sent to help you get better.
To a specialty place that works on old vehicles.
Even here, I'm cursed by
Because I can't exactly bring it to any shop. I'm sure most shops would probably turn me away, considering the thing's over 70 years old. What do you remember? So I had to bring it to a specialty place, the same place that I got it inspected to get it registered in the first place, like a year ago. How do you get here?
How did you get here? I remember being in my bed. I was sick. Everything went dark. Then I was by a river surrounded by people waiting to cross.
Here, eat this flower.
Eat this flower.
This is Flowey the flower.
You feel strong.
Nom.
I feel different. I feel better. But the plague is still with me. I will take you to a place where you can feel better. There is a fire that will cleanse you.
Dark Souls intensifies.
Are you sure it will help me? Won't it hurt? The flower you ate will protect you. If this is the only way, then I suppose I have to try.
Okay, I guess I don't need to actually escort you there. Oh, never mind. Yes, I do. Protect the lost woman and reach the Thanatos Pyre. The lost woman can die. All right, time to save. Like, I guess I don't need a hard save. Just do, like, a quick save, and then I'm good. There we go, quick save. Yeah, it's gotta be the Truck of Theseus here, where these parts are over 70 years old. So, I mean, it does make sense that most of them are going to have to be replaced over time. The only things that are going to stay the same are the body itself. So what it looks like, that's staying original. That whole frame there. And the engine. The engine's like the one thing that I've had no issue with. Like back then, holy crap, they actually made engines to last. Like I was having problems with the engine that one time earlier where it just wouldn't run, but that turned out to be a spark plug issue. I replaced those and then it works just fine. And that's like a thing that you put into the top of the engine. It's not really the engine itself. But like the engine itself, I've never had any issues with. Apparently there have been issues with the engine before, where when my grandpa first bought it, it was seized, but he fixed it by just like soaking it in a lubricant, like soaking it in oil, and then using a wooden block to like bash all the cylinders until I moved again, just because they were stuck in place, and then the engine worked fine again. So that really goes to show that holy crap, they made engines to last, didn't they? So the engine probably isn't gonna need to be replaced, I don't think. Like that's the one part that's still gonna stay good. And of course the body there. Planned obsolescence has to be illegal for truck/cars. It honestly should be. Like, it is not, as far as I'm aware. But it definitely should be. I bet you, like, the manufacturers of that truck would probably be surprised that the engine still works perfectly fine after 70 years. Like, that is honestly extremely impressive for it to still be working as well as it is for that long. Like, man, they really made them different back when, huh? Alright, let's see here. Boopity bop. It was very, very different back then in, like, lots of different regards. I think I was chatting about this during Persona the other day, and I went and grabbed the ad that I have hanging up. That, whoa. That is like an advert from back when about how those trucks are all about getting the specific one that you need. Because nowadays, you look at, like, a vehicle and, like, its variants, and there will be, like, maybe 2 or 3 different versions. The series my truck was in, there was 58 different variants, which is way more than any like reasonable vehicle manufacturer makes today. Like it's insane. And the idea behind like all those different possible versions is you shouldn't have to overpay for like more oomph than you'll realistically need, and you shouldn't be getting something like cheaper than what you're using it for, like something that's gonna be underpowered for what you're using it for, because then you're just gonna drown in maintenance fees. So you should be paying for what you're going to use it for and not be overpaying. Something that a modern businessman would just completely laugh at. So yeah, things were very different back then. Making things to last and being like, hey, you should be paying for the thing that you actually need. Not like the bazillion other accessories and features that you're probably never going to need, but we're going to charge you for anyway. Just as like an excuse to drive up the value. Like vehicles are so much of the time nowadays. And with planned obsolescence. Gosh dang it. Why can't I say obsolescence? My goodness gracious. Where they just want them to be consumable and you replace them after so many years and then give them more money. Like, it's a crazy difference here. I mean, in general, it should just be outright illegal anyways, but especially with cars, trucks, if they break down in the middle of the road, you could easily die. Yeah, absolutely. And because of the clutch being all funky there, I was worried about, like, what if there's something majorly wrong here? So I needed to bring it into the shop, and then, like, the death lurch just further exemplified that when I already had the shop appointment booked. And as I found out earlier this week when I brought it into the shop, it really was on the verge of dying, it seems like, and it's probably a miracle it got me as far as it did, but I'll elaborate on that after this cutscene. Yikes. Whoa, sudden cut transition. You're not even gonna say anything? A cured sickness. I mean, it still looks slightly stone-like, but just not as bad because he's not sick anymore. Home is where you make it. Alright, now I need to go do another thing with this dudo. Wow, right over here, right next to a viewpoint. That's kind of convenient there. So, I took it in on Monday with my dad following behind me with his truck, like putting on his hazard lights if something bad happens there. And that time, I stalled and died on the way to the shop, and it's a decent bit of distance away. It's kind of near where Fragapalooza takes place, so it's a little bit out of town. And my truck died probably about 6 or 7 times on the way there. And whenever it did, it would usually be like it was before, where I would just be able to come to a complete stop, hit the starter pedal, and it would come back to life, and then I'd be able to keep going. But I would have to pull over to the side of the road, come to a complete stop, because it would just die on me completely mid-driving. Like, putter, and it's dead. It didn't really lurch as much this time, where it was getting, like, bits of fuel, like when it was lurching before. This time I would just putter and die. Like, basically, like, the fuel was completely cut off. So I would pull over, come to a complete stop, start up again. Sometimes I would just start up again while I'm still moving and coasting, but that doesn't quite feel as safe, and it wouldn't always work. It felt more reliable to start up at a complete stop, so that's usually what I would do. And he would put on his hazard lights, pull over behind me, and then I'd start up again. Sometimes it would take a few tries, but I'd get eventually and keep going. Except for once, when we were about halfway there. We were 16 kilometers away from our destination. And it stalled and died, and it would not come back to life again, no matter how many times I tried hitting the ignition pedal. I would sometimes wait for a little bit just to see if, like, maybe I flooded the engine with fuel, so now maybe it won't start for a little bit, and just wait for that to dissipate, then try it again, and it just would not work. It was dead. I was like, oh no, am I gonna have to call, like, a tow truck, like, mid-drive here? What is going on? And my dad had the idea of, oh, let's try pull starting it. Something that you cannot do with any modern vehicle. So, what we did this time was literally just what it sounds like here. Here's where I was talking about it in Discord. Where my dad had this tow cable in the back of his truck. So we attached that to the front bumper of my truck. And this is more meant for pulling people out of ditches, but like it works fine here. We attached it to the front bumper of my truck. Maybe I should have taken off my don't mess with Texas plate here before going on this trip, just in case we needed to pull start. But like it didn't even occur to me. So we just put it on to the side of that. Then he pulled ahead of me and we attached it to like the back bumper. And with the starter normally, the starter would basically just, and I got it from Texas on my trip down there earlier this year because I'm from Texas. So even though the truck was made in Canada, I have the Texas plate because I'm from Texas. If you hit the starter, it'll use the battery to turn over the engine, to get those gears spinning. I'm not a vehicle expert. This vehicle is how I'm learning how vehicles work and stuff. So like, if I say things wrong here, then that's on me. But getting things spinning, getting those pistons moving, it starts that using the battery is the way that the starter works. And then once it gets fuel and once it's going, then like the fuel just keeps it going and recharges the battery. And like, it's just that initial startup that you normally need to use the battery. But you can get those gears moving in other ways. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be with the starter. Like look at a motorcycle, for example. If you have like a dirt bike that has like a Kickstarter, then those kinds of bikes might not even have a battery because you start up with like your force of a Kickstarter. And here, this is a method to start this old vehicle without using the actual battery starter itself. So essentially, this uses the momentum of the wheels turning and that moving the gears that way to start it up. So I remember my dad told me to try pull starting it once when it was broken down at the gas station like a month and a half ago. And I was like, all right, I'll try starting it while you're pulling it. And I tried hitting the starter pedal and it didn't really work. And he told me later, like, nope, that's not how you do it. I was like, okay, I didn't know. I've never pull started something before. So his instructions this time were a lot more clear of like, don't touch the starter pedal. Like we don't need to use the battery. Just let the clutch out. So have it in neutral. So like the gears aren't touching. We pulled over to this side of the road where there was a bit more space and there was like a right turn thing coming up here where there's like a little bit of a lane just specifically for right turns. So we got over to there while I had it in neutral. So none of the gears are touching. And then once we're on that way, that's not going to block anybody. Then slowly let out the clutch in second. So the gears start touching, it gets things spinning, and then use that to fire it back up again. And I had to give it a little bit of gas just to see if it actually fired up, because it fired up pretty silently. And then I had to be careful not to like ram into the back of his truck, his Ram, ironically enough, because his cable isn't exactly super long. Well, it would be longer if we didn't have it, but then that'd be like way too long and be kind of sketchy. I don't want someone trying to like change lanes in the middle of us and not realize there's a rope there. So it came to life pretty silently, and I had to be careful to like immediately hit the brake after hitting the gas, because yeah, it came to life, and I didn't want to ram into the back of his truck. So the pull start worked amazingly. It's the first time that I've ever pull started a vehicle. It worked great, and it took me a little bit further there before stalling and dying some more times, but every time the ignition pedal would work from there. This is the only time we had to pull start, and it felt kind of cool to pull start something. And I think, yeah, as I was saying here, it is kind of funny to see, like, the exact same truck manufacturer. Like, these are both Dodges. This is just Dodge under a different name, Fargo. 66 years apart, but exact same manufacturer. Goes to show how things have changed. So the pull start worked great. but I knew that something was like seriously wrong, considering I was really worried about even being able to get to the shop at all. Like, it was a journey, but we got there. I was so happy we got there. Like, yes, now it's in the hands of the professionals. They can sort some stuff out. And they did indeed think that it was the carburetor, like not feeding in gas.
A family devastated by war wanders
So yeah, there was still carburetor issues. I know how that feels.
To lose a home.
Yes, you all have sad stories to tell. At least most who come here are dead now.
I think I would still be sad if I was dead.
The suffering you fleshlings inflict on each other never ceases to astound me.
Same here.
That's why we are helping all the lost we can.
You're right. They deserve to have somewhere safe to stay.
So I brought it on Monday, and then they were gonna give it like an inspection and see if they could do anything about the clutch, like if they could adjust it properly or see what's up and get back to me about that and let me know what parts I would need to potentially source over the winter and what things I would need to fix up. So I got a call the following day. The carburetor, first and foremost, I can mention. It was apparently leaking from everywhere it could possibly leak. So after everything with that carb and still that, and I'm like, oh man. And the company that I paid $1,300 for that carb for, after I told them that it leaked when I first got it, and they apparently sent me a second one, I never received that, and I never even received like a tracking number for the second one. And I followed up with them at the end of August, and they were like, that's strange because we did send a second one. All right, I guess we'll send a third one. And they never gave me a tracking number on that or followed up with that. And now at the beginning of October, I still haven't received the mythical second or third carburetor that they supposedly sent me after I spent an arm and a leg trying to get a functional carburetor from them all the way back in April, and I still don't have a functional carburetor that they've sent to me from all that time ago. So I was pretty pissed off at them, especially at that point, where it's like, come on, really? And the shop that it was at was like, we can try rebuilding it. Like, we have a rebuild kit here, and then maybe it'll work. Maybe not. Like, they're still gonna bill me for the hours. So I could tell them to work on it for a few hours on a gamble of maybe they can get it working, when this company that I spent an arm and a leg at still owes me a functional carburetor anyway. So I tried getting in contact with this company. I called them, I emailed them, like, hey, you still owe me a functional carburetor. I've heard nothing about this second or third one. I never even got a tracking number. Was it sent out? What's going on? Like, can I either get a functional carburetor or can I get my money back? Because holy crap. So I would have sent that out on Tuesday, I believe. It is currently Friday. Well, it's currently Saturday since it's 2:05 in the morning. And I still haven't heard from them. I still haven't heard a single word from them. And at this point, considering I've been dealing with carburetor issues for over a year, I'll take any opportunity I can get to get that thing fixed up. Can I charge back on something from all the way back in April? Like, is that a thing? I've never had to charge back something before. Like, maybe. I'm not sure. At this point, I'm just like, you know, I'll take any potential chance of getting this problem sorted out. So I called the shop the following day saying, like, yeah, I didn't hear back from this company. You know what? Just go ahead and try to rebuild it. Like, let's see what happens. So all in all, on the carburetor, I spent $400 before buying that one, with like $200 myself plus a lot of my own work, just like sourcing parts is what that cost comes to, and then $200 getting a mechanic to try to rebuild it professionally, and the parts were just screwed and like it wouldn't be good enough, so that didn't work. So that was $400 spent. So I was like, you know what, let's just bite the bullet and shell out for something fancier, fully rebuilt. And then I spent $1,300 to get like that fancy rebuilt one that's still leaked. So I'm at $1,700 spent at that point. And then I spent an extra, let's see here. They charged me $217.50 for the rebuild there. And then for the actual carburetor kit, the cost of that was $56. So all in all, in terms of carburetor, for sorting out this one problem alone, I have now spent, let's see here, calculator. So yeah, that's 400 plus 1,300. I think it was a little bit over 1,300, but something like that. Plus $217.50 from this that I got earlier today, because I took my truck home earlier today. Plus the cost of the carburetor kit, so $56. So, and because that $1,300 carb is probably a little bit over that, I think it was like $1,350. it's probably pretty realistic to say that I've spent over $2,000 trying to get the carburetor sorted out, which I'm pretty sure is more than my car is worth. I mean, maybe it not be, because after the whole chip shortage and thinking that things would go back to normal prices vehicle-wise after the chip shortage, and then it didn't really do as much as people thought it would go back to normal, I could probably charge more for my car still in, like, the curse market than I would normally be able to otherwise. But yeah, my car is a 2005 Pontiac Vibe with now over 250,000 kilometers on it. Like, it's seen a lot of active use. Like, and now it's like 20 years old, about to be 20 years old. So like, my car isn't exactly worth a massive ton. So that's probably about the value of my car that I spent on that one part. Yeah, how much of it was the carburetor that you never got? They never charged me for the additional ones. They were like, all right, because we didn't send you a functional one. Surprisingly, they never requested the original not functioning one back. So that's the one that's still on there and that the shop rebuilt like over the past couple days. They never asked for the original one back. They just said that they send me more. So they never charged me for the mythical second or third one. I guess that just goes into the overhead cost of like the $1,300 I initially paid to get a functional carburetor from them. So yeah, I think it is realistic to say that I've, you look familiar. I don't remember where we're from though. Maybe you're just a generic NPC that's been used in other contexts. But yeah, I've spent over $2,000 on that thing now. That is really sad. But from what it sounds like the carburetor is working well now. Thankfully. So maybe it's properly sorted.
But the hounds are drawing close, so what choice do we have?
There has to be somewhere nearby where you'd be safe.
There's a cave not too far from here that could provide some shelter. It didn't look very inviting, but it's better than here.
Anywhere else?
There was also an abandoned camp. It would be ideal if not for all the strange creatures in the area. It could be dangerous.
I paid attention to like the first half, and then my mind was like, oh my, I'll take you to the cave.
Stay close.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not, lost family members can die. I'm not a very confrontational person. I'm the kind of person that's like, well, this situation sucks. I'm just not gonna, like, pursue it, and I'm also not gonna give them any business in the future. And I'll say, like, in case anyone's curious, that company is Mopar Pro from the States. So, you know, maybe don't get things from them. Maybe don't get Mopar Pro parts. Because, yeah, I don't want a similar situation there. My dad, though, is a lot more confrontational. Like, if something goes wrong, then he's a lot more likely to get in people's faces about it. Like, the most confrontational that I've been in years was when I sent an email to, like, the just general Auto Pro, or Part Source, that's what it was. The general Part Source, like, feedback email or, like, customer support to issue a complaint about that whole spark plug situation a while back. And then I did end up, like, meeting with the manager about that because she's the one that reached out to me and then, requested that I, like, come in and follow up and stuff like that. So I, and, like, we had, like, a very reasonable discussion about the whole thing, and, like, I was never, like, gonna be mad at anyone, like, in person there. Even when the people at Part Source were trying to shift blame onto me for their own failings, I, still would never yell at anyone or anything like that. But my dad, not quite so. Are they all in here? Is this just marking, like, the entrance? Or something? Is someone out here? Oh my goodness, your AI just bugged out. But yeah, I'm not very confrontational. I'm the kind of person to just be like, yeah, that sucks, and then just leave it be. Like, even if I did get really, really screwed out of stuff there. But it does sound like after the carburetor rebuild that they did, like replacing all the gaskets and adjusting the jets with whatever the places that you adjust them. I don't even know because I haven't done it myself. Yeah, like, I could do that, but, like, it might lead to, like, some wild mayhem, and that just sounds like a can of worms I don't want to open. And, like, maybe it's working now, after a whole bunch of work that I put into it, and a bunch of work that a professional shop put into it, like, properly rebuilding it. So, like, maybe it's fine. Like, maybe that carburetor does work for me now, but man, it did take a lot of extra work over that. I mean, I guess so, but, like, make the area safe for the family. but I don't really feel like opening that can of worms. My dad would absolutely open a can of worms like that. I remember when we were down in the States, one of the places that we stayed at, the toilet float just didn't work. So, like, you wouldn't be able to flush the toilet because it wouldn't fill up properly. And he would say, like, they need a replacement float. And you could reach in there, like, in the tank manually and pull up the float and have it refill manually each time. But that's a little bit too much work. And that shouldn't be expected for the customer to do, to have to lift the tank of the toilet, pull their hand in and do that each time. And I remember that situation. He kept on insisting to them that it was the float. And they would just keep on coming in, doing that manually once and being like, oh, it's fixed. When it wouldn't be fixed after, like, the initial one go, after it got filled up. And they just refused to get a new float. And I remember what my dad there, he told me after the fact when we were driving to our next destination, he told me that he took a shit in the toilet and left it unflushed because the toilet couldn't flush without a new float without reaching in to do that, as, like, the kind of comeuppance of them refusing to sort out that issue. And he was also especially pissed off at them because we had some better accommodations sorted out by the time that we got to that place, and he wanted to cancel that initial booking, and this place refused to cancel the booking so we could stay at the place that he'd rather stay at when a new opportunity came up. So basically we were forced to stay there if we didn't want that money to go to waste, and then the experience was just like shit there with them refusing to help out with that. But an action like what he did there is not the kind of thing that I would do. And my dad has seemed a lot more pissed off at this carburetor situation than I have. And he seems a lot more intent on, like, getting in their faces and doing things. And he's told me before, like, if you want me to call them, then let me know and I'll call them. And I'm like, yeah. But yeah, I'm not a very confrontational person. But that's the carburetor situation. Maybe it's sorted. I really hope, because holy crap, this has been such a journey for this one stupid part. All to get fuel to go into the engine properly with this one part. Like, the upside of this old stuff is, like, it's so simple. Like, things typically work the way that you think they work, since, like, it's not, like, super overcomplicated and filled with all these circuitry and little computers and stuff like that, like vehicles nowadays. Like, it's much, much simpler. But the parts are really hard to source because they're so old. And if one little thing goes wrong, then, like, the whole thing is failing. Is the case. So, definitely some upsides and downsides to these older vehicles for sure. But maybe it's finally sorted out. Could let him handle everything as well if he wants to, maybe. Like, and I might tell him, like, yeah, if you want to follow up with stuff here, you can, but I think I'm done because that's not really the kind of thing that I pursue. Oh, I can get some adrenaline off of you before future battles. I'm confrontational as well, but if someone wants to be on your behalf, yeah, you go ahead and do that. He said no pickles. Heirloom bow that I'm probably not gonna use. Home is where you make it. I did the thing. Wow. And that was the less of the... Gosh dang it. There's a whole bunch of them that he wants me to do. Are these ones really that important? These ones don't seem like they're super important. I don't know. Oh, I gotta get out of the restricted area. Gives me more excuse to ramble, I guess. I think maybe it was just the Phoebe one that was super important then. I don't know.